Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Smo. And it's not a never heard of? The frick's happening? I know many of you wanted me to review Encanto and Turning Red, but I want to use the Ever Heard Of series for underrated movies because everybody's heard of Encanto or Turning Red. I want to give spotlight to the movies buried under huge corporations. But with that out of the way, today I just wanted to talk about the comparisons around Encanto and Turning Red, which, heads up, I don't mind it being compared. Comparing media, as I've mentioned before, are great to see what stands out between the two and what doesn't, and all that jazz. But it does go a bit too far with people, and that's what happened with the release of Turning Red. Comparing multiple movies is good, but I've seen some opinions on Turning Red, where they say Encanto did generational trauma better, and that's why they didn't like Turning Red, which I'll say it now, both movies are great. If you watch Turning Red without prior knowledge to Encanto, I'm pretty sure the way they skimmed through generational trauma wouldn't bother people as much, but because both movies touched upon that subject, people are naturally going to compare these two movies more closely, especially since they came out roughly at a close time span as well. That being said, let me give my short opinions on both movies. I'm not gonna give a recap since there's plenty of that out there in the YouTube sea. You can take your pick. See, the differences of Encanto and Turning Red are their themes and the way they present it. Encanto is more of a telenovela musical with a little comedy sprinkled into the movie, while Turning Red focuses on their comedy, especially with the subtle expressions and the exaggerated scenes, all the while telling a serious subject in a lighthearted manner. I genuinely enjoyed my watch of Turning Red, even with all its flaws. It doesn't drag the movie down because it was refreshing and fun. Turning Red's story is about a girl about to enter that stage of teenhood, where they want to find themselves, not wanting to be treated as kids anymore, because it is their first step towards adulthood. Not into, mind you, but towards it, and dealing with your emotions where you feel conscious of how others see you, or how to let your parents know that you need more space from them. And as you grow up, you realize that your parents are just people, and not perfect beings. When you grow older, you get to know your parents better, if you ever at the very least, then you kinda realize and see what generational trauma looks like. And I feel like that's why Turning Red, a movie about growing up, only touches on generational trauma so lightly, because as one grows up, you do realize that this thing actually exists. It affected your parents, and it affected you. It's gonna be part of your growth where you realize these things, but it's not confined to just that. You know what I mean? Just like how, other than how Mei seeing Ming's frustration about being watched by her own mother, the movie also shows us how Mei slowly decides things on her own, chooses the things that she wants to do, being conscious about what she looks like, what people think of her, and all that jazz you experience growing up. Now, what's great about Turning Red and Encanto is it doesn't justify the wrong things that they did in the past, but I do appreciate that the ones at fault realized it as soon as it was confronted and chose to apologize, realizing the wrongs. It's a bit of a fantasy, I must admit, and it doesn't happen most of the time in real life, which is saddening, but it's still a good example for those who are in a similar position. Now, one interview from Encanto's creator mentioned that they were planning to set the movie in a time where Mirabel is looking for her power, her gift, but then they chose the story where Mirabel has already moved on from that, past that stage where she's eager to find her gift, hoping that the candle was wrong. They chose the time to set the movie where Mirabel has presently given up on finding her gift and just finding a purpose in the family, which I gotta admit is sadder but more refreshing since it's not a magical journey to get a supernatural gift, but it's become more grounded, to find a purpose, to help the family. It's not about puberty, it's not about finding yourself, it's about breaking the mold, breaking the toxic habits that are passed down from generation to generation, and accepting yourself not because of what you can do, but because of you. Just you. And one thing I want to point out was that Ming from Turning Red didn't get as much hate from some people than Abuela from Encanto, even though both realized their own faults and mistakes they made and reflected on it and took the first step in apologizing that led to healing. Both of them had redemption arcs, and I like both characters because of the development they got, but I feel like Ming didn't get as much hate as Abuela because Turning Red really showcased how much of a caring mother Ming is. Yeah, she's overbearing and so overly protective, but you can still see that she genuinely cares for her daughter and wants to spend time with her. While in Abuela's case, all we can see from her is her judgmental looks for Mirabel and stern dismissals.
Abuela, I promise that's enough.
There is nothing wrong with La Casa Madrigal.
And yeah, there were times where she would hear Mirabel out, which surprised me to see that she wasn't that flat-written evil character who's mean all the time. She listens to Mirabel, but she's so blinded of her fear of losing the magic that she can't focus on Mirabel herself and her needs. The audience had more screen time to like Ming as a character, well at the very least more than Alma.
You should have listened to his mother and married Ling Yi.
Totally. Xiu Yi is so two-faced.
She's just using him to get to the throne.
There were also scenes where the audience and Mirabel can empathize with Abuela, like when Mirabel snuck on the roof, but unlike Ming, the caring, sympathetic nature was not directed directly to the main character. Mirabel just happened to hear Abuela's genuine concerns and worries. Now you might be thinking, why can't I compare the two movies when you're doing the exact same thing? You can compare the two movies, but as you can see when I talked about them side by side, there's so many differences, so many things wherein both stand out in their own way. Some people online compare the two movies as if they both sent the same main message, just because both of them had generational trauma in their themes, when I've mentioned earlier that that's not the case. They're similar, yeah, but both movies stand alone strong. I would prefer Encanto more, mainly because, you know, I love my musicals, and the culture of the Philippines was greatly influenced by the same culture because historical events, but Turning Red was such a fun watch, and no, it's not because I'm a girl and that I can relate to it because I'm a girl, blah 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 blah. Look, I'm not Chinese, I don't live in Canada, but Turning Red is great, not because of its relatability or the fact that they carefully exemplified women's hygiene, but because of the story, the jokes, and the characters. They're all fun. Look, I can't judge people for not liking the movie solely because they can't relate. I can understand why. Maybe they haven't hit puberty yet. Maybe they haven't grown yet. That's why they can't relate. Who knows? I'm sure there are other reasons why people didn't like it, but the first thing that came to their mind to excuse that they don't like it is because they can't relate to it. Who knows? I wouldn't know. I can totally understand not liking a movie even when everybody likes it though. Hell, that's what my channel is mostly about, as I've noticed. But Turning Red is still great if you watch it blindly. Not as a critic, not as whatever ethnicity you are hoping you can relate to, but as a person who has a parental figure, a person who was immature before and grew from that. That's just my suggestion. Whoa, what do I know? If you want to cry and sing all day to banger songs, watch Encanto. If you want to forget about your worries for a while and laugh, watch Turning Red. In the end, I just wanted to talk about both of these movies because as someone who kind of finds nostalgia in the culture of Encanto's setting, not because I'm Colombian, but as I've mentioned, our cultures are very similar because of historical events, and Turning Red because I've studied in a Chinese school and I saw what the stress of being perfect academically and restricting the kids looks like. But it all boils down to I just like them because they're good. They're fun stories, okay? I just wanted to have this kind of comparison video sometime, so if you guys want me to compare some movies, not review them fully, just to be clear, then why not drop down some movies in the comments that you'd like me to talk about side by side with each other? Come on, drop those babies down. I can't promise to talk about all of them, but it's a good list of suggestions if I ever make another one of these bad boys. Next ever heard of will be about robots. And by the way, I do watch-alongs on my Discord server if you want to be able to watch the movies with me before I even cover them in the video. Discord links are in the description. So yeah, I can't thank my amazing patrons enough. Thanks so much for your continued support. A big ol' shout out to my patrons in the butternut tier. Why butternut, you ask? Because I like the butternut donut from Dunkin' Donuts, and it's my patron tier, so I can choose. I can choose whatever I want to name it, okay? Jacob K, Minehack, Amanaronde Dengue, Kyle, Christian V, and Cross. Yeah, freaking awesome people.